Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is it. This is the big one. Manchester United taking on Fulham. The Premier League opener at Old Trafford. Friday night, under the lights. It's all happening. With me, as always, is Mr. Joe Smith. Joe, we've made it. We've made it to the beginning of the season.
We've made it.
Yeah.
We're here. This is it.
This
is the big one, Jay.
It really is, bro. This is what we've been waiting for.
We've had the Euros. Garbage. Copa America. Garbage. Community Shield. Garbage.
Yeah.
Finally, stuff is really happening again. The Premier League is back. It's been so long. And actually, let's be honest, last year didn't even count because of how crap we were. It's been over 12 months since Man United truly played Premier League football, and we are finally here, Jay. And before we carry on, I just want to ask people at home, get your phone out, record yourself speaking into the camera landscape, and give us your score predictions. Send them to paddockmatchday@gmail.com. The email is in the description. And give them to us, obviously, and we'll put them in our watch-along build-up. So before we start on the watch-along, we're going to see your faces building up, bigging up the game for us, okay? paddockmatchday@gmail.com. I can't wait, Jay. I can't wait.
Do you know what I mean? I can't wait to see those predictions. I can't wait to get stuck into this. And do you know what? Do you know why I'm even more excited than normal?
Viagra?
No, I've stopped using that. Because we've got some signings.
Yeah.
We've got some actual new signings at Manchester United. We've gone a bit turbo in the transfer window, especially over the last few days, where we've brought in two players. We've brought in Noussair, Mazraoui, and we've also brought in Matthijs, Ligt. Before that, we brought in Lenny Yoro, who is injured, and we've also brought in Joshua Zirkzee. So there's a chance that we might see some new signings. We'll get into our predicted 11s in a minute, but the fact that we've brought in some players adds a little bit of edge to it, doesn't it? A little bit more, I don't know, gives me a little bit more of a spring in our step.
Yeah, and I think you look at the age of them, you look at the height of them as well, which has been something that I've seen people mention. You've got big, tall, strong, young players coming in. I think De Ligt is the oldest of the signings so far, and he just turned 25 this week. So United are making a squad where the worst player is better than they used to be.
Yeah.
That's what United are doing this summer. This isn't a topping up the top, putting the diamond in the crown. This is actually, if we want to start winning things, we can't be rotating where the first choice is a 7, 8, 9 out of 10, and the backup, when you're bringing them on after 60 minutes, is a 4.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Everything is being levelled out, and I think that's the thing that I'm seeing a lot of people miss, and people maybe on purpose are missing, talking about, the starting 11's actually got worse since last season. Firstly, United's starting 11's quality on paper has not been the issue over the last 10 years. We've had some fantastic starting 11's. We've had World Cup winners, we've had multiple Champions League winners, we've had fantastic 11's that have underachieved. The starting 11 is almost irrelevant. The players that can win games are there, and they win games not because of their sort of talent at their best, it's their ability to play at their best. And I think bringing in players like Joshua Zirkzee as a potential backup to Højlund, De Ligt, Yoro, I think Mazraoui as well, you're changing the level of the whole squad at Man United, and I think these new signings are going to do a massive job towards us losing less games and being terrible in less games. Not how good we can be at our best, because any team can be amazing at their best. It's how bad we can be at our worst, and I think that floor is coming up a little bit with these signings.
I couldn't agree more. I've been saying this for a little while now about this whole on our day FC.
Yeah.
On our day, we're very good, and we can beat anyone. Even, we've shown that. We've beaten on Erik ten Hag's watch. We've beaten the likes of Barcelona, the likes of Manchester City a couple of times as well. We've beaten Arsenal, we've beaten Liverpool, we've beaten all these big teams. But the problem is, consistently over the course of a season, we struggle because when we get one or two injuries, especially last season, which was a bit of a disaster in the Premier League, then we just don't have those players that can come in and that you can rely on and you can sort of get excited about. But that hopefully is changing. Joe.
Yeah.
I get the season hasn't started, but I'm going to go very, very early here. And I want you to bear with me.
Go on.
Yeah. I do feel like, this is a bit of almost a must-win game for Erik ten Hag, right? Now, I know that's ludicrous because it's the first game of the season. When you say must-win, what does that mean? Does that mean if he loses, he's getting sacked? However, I feel like if Erik ten Hag was to lose this game, after everything that happened last season, after the fact he's got Ruud van Nistelrooy sat next to him in the dugout, after all the expectation, after the fact we brought in these new players, after the fact it's Fulham, which is a very winnable game, and the fact our record at Old Trafford last season was abysmal, then the knives are going to be out. And he's going to lose all that good grace he had from everyone from winning the FA Cup final. Because whilst me and you supported him, and a lot of other people did, a lot of people, until that FA Cup final at least, weren't feeling it and had enough. And I feel like if you lose at home to Fulham, people are going to be going, this guy's not the guy.
Yeah.
I do feel like this is a bit of a must-win already, and I know how stupid that sounds when it's the season opener, but I just do. I feel like the pressure's on this guy, and I feel like if he was to lose that first game, maybe not must-win or more, it'd be more not lose, but if he was to lose that first game at home to Fulham, then he's under all sorts of pressure already.
He is, and if it looks... I don't fully agree with you.
Yeah, but I know that is quite a sort of out there statement.
I see what you're saying, and I do think that it won't take long at all before people they'll flip back to the mindset of last season.
Yeah.
And then you know what? At some point, fair enough, because a couple of years in, I get it, and I gave him a lot of sort of, ways out almost last season of blame, and the fact that ultimately I don't think what happened last season was all his fault, and the injuries were sort of insane. But if you're going to be at a club for 2, 3 into 3 years now, 4, 5 years, you can't just never be good. You can't just get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
I don't think that will happen. But I get your point that if we lose, or I think more importantly, and I hate to say this, I don't want to lose. Obviously, I don't think we will lose. If we put in a performance where we make a lot of chances, where we only concede, let's say, 8, 9, 10 shots. If we hold the ball well, if we look like we've got patterns of play where we can break down a deep block or whatever, and somehow we lost a smash and grab to Fulham, I could stomach that.
Yeah.
The problem he's going to have is if all of a sudden that performance against City, which I actually think was very good in a lot of ways, although we lost, if that goes out the window and it's back to last season of huge gaps in the middle, 25 shots conceded, United can barely muster a shot together, the striker is isolated, whoever that may be, and we lose, then I can see your point of people will instantly go, actually, we've learnt nothing.
Yeah.
3 years in and it's still terrible. But I
don't expect to happen, and I think we will win. I'll get to my score prediction later. And I'm not saying if he loses to Fulham, he's going to get sacked, because that'd be absolutely insane. My point is, it'll add a lot of pressure on him, and it might be pressure early doors in that season that he doesn't fully recover from. And I know that sounds a little bit sort of, come on, Jay, the season's not even started, but that is where I'm at. I'm sorry, it's just the nature of the beast, especially after the season we had last season in the Premier League. Let's talk about predicted 11s, because United do have some injuries, but we've got a lot of players who've come back, from last season who were in and out of side, who are now available. We're not sure on 1 or 2 players at the time of recording this, but from the players we know we've got available, you've sort of gone through your predicted 11 and you can talk us through it.
Yeah, can I just say before I go through that, I'm so excited for football to be back.
I know, it's
I love it. I almost can't believe my luck that it's actually happening this week. Like, this is a real game that we have to care about, that we look. I can't wait for it.
Do you know when we was on pre-season, right, and it felt like old times, right? It felt like when I used to drink, because... and I don't mean that in a positive way. I mean, when I used to drink out of my head, sometimes the game would get away from me. Yeah. I'd be that twisted. Sometimes when we was like in pre-season, we sat in the press box, me, you and Steve, or me, you, Macca, or me and you, and just like chatting and that. Because it's so like, it's not that important. Yeah. You'd almost lose track of the game, and it's like, oh, crikey, I've not realised we've made 9 subs. Yeah. What's going on? You wouldn't be as focused as you are. Obviously, you'd be watching the game, you want them to win, but as focused as you will be with this game now, it'd be a bit more relaxed and a bit more of a sort of, not almost meaningless at times. Do you know what I mean? Like, that loss to Liverpool didn't hit me like a loss to Liverpool should do. I mean, I wasn't buzzing about it, obviously, but it didn't feel like a real loss. It's not the same. No. Now it is. Now it's like, this matters. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I fully understand where you're coming from. This is your team there. You can see it on the screen. Talk us through it here, because... well, go on, you can talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, people can see it on there. So obviously, Onana speaks for itself. I think Dalot has to play. I've gone with Ligt, Martinez and Shaw alongside him. Obviously, we don't know the situation with Shaw, but I'm going to bet on the fact that he was just a little bit off it last week, and that he'll be available for selection again, because it's just presumably a match fitness thing. We've not heard about an injury, some sort of a problem with an injury. So I'm hoping he'll be back. If not, we'll have to sort of maybe put Martinez back out there, get Maguire in again. But I do expect De Ligt to start. I think they'll want to do that. Ten Hag likes to do that, like he put Euro in straight away in the friendlies, didn't he? Midfield, I think we stick with that diamond. To be honest, I think we stick with that same front 6 that started against City. So you've got Casemiro, Mainu, Mount, Fernandes, Rashford, Ahmad. I think those lot deserve to start. Ahmad, for me, has to play. I think, and as good as Garnacho was when he came on, I think that Ahmad started that game brilliantly and was our biggest threat against City in the first half when they were fully fresh, fully ready. And Garnacho was excellent, and I'd like to have him off the bench as well. But I think it would be unfair on Ahmad to drop him after the pre-season he's had. I also think that he won't drop Rashford just because he sort of needs to get the best out of Rashford. We're giving him a big contract. He's obviously not been sold or anything like that. So you have to kind of try and get the best out of him. And the only way you're going to do that is by playing him. And if we're going to stick with this sort of 4-2-4 thing going on, I think this formation and these players are the best way to do that. Clearly, he doesn't fancy Xerxes from the start, so I've gone with that. What do you reckon?
I have to disagree a little bit on a couple of things there. I get your point about he does like to give players a chance, but also he has been cautious in the past. Like he brought Casemiro in and he didn't play him straight away. I think somebody kept his players, and I think Maguire's all right. I know people disagree.
Should we see your 11 then, so we can go along?
Yeah, because I think Maguire and Martinez against Fulham's fine. I do. I think that's a centre-back partnership that works.
Yeah, me too.
We don't know what's happening with Luke Shaw. The fact he wasn't even in the squad makes me think he might not be quite there yet. I reserve judgment on Luke Shaw. I didn't quite join in with what Steve was saying, even though I get where he was coming from, with this sort of anger and disappointment, the fact that he's been fit enough to go to the Euros and still isn't ready for Manchester United. I said if he's not ready for the Fulham game, I'll be annoyed. I'm not sure he will be, but I might be wrong. If he isn't, I think it'll be Dole on the left, and I think Mazraoui will get a start on the right hand side. I would love to see Harry Amas come on the left hand side and keep Dole on the right. I'm just not sure that Erik ten Hag will do that for a Premier League game. The midfield, 3, Casemiro, Mainu and Bruno Fernandes.
Yep.
I'm not changing anything there. The one thing I will disagree with you a little bit is with the sort of pre-season thing. I think Diallo has done well in pre-season, but I think that cameo, if you can call it that, from Garnacho is the best anyone's played pre-season for Manchester United against City. I thought he was sensational, and I just thought he absolutely terrorised him. He should have had an assist for the Rashford chance. He got a goal that he made out of nothing himself.
Yeah.
I just thought he was amazing, and I think that he's one of Ten Hag's guys.
I agree with that.
I think he is. And
I don't think it'll be long before he is starting, by the way. But I
think that goes somewhere as well. He started a lot against Erik ten Hag. I think he's one of his go-to guys. So whilst I love Amad Diallo, and listen, if Diallo starts, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I think he'll start Mason Mount on the right-hand side. I think he'll want to start Mason Mount. He'll want to give him a Premier League start and get him going this season. And I think Garnacho's done enough to start on the left-hand side. And I think we'll see Marcus down the middle. I think you're right about Xerxes. I don't think Xerxes is quite there yet. Obviously, Højlund's injured. The Bruno point I get. If it was a Liverpool or a bigger team, no disrespect to Fulham, I wouldn't be surprised if we played a false 9. I think for this, he'll want a striker, an out-and-out striker. And I think he trusts Marcus Rashford in that role. And I think what he said after the game against City, that even though Marcus missed some chances, he was getting in good positions and, he did move into the middle later on. I think he still trusts Marcus Rashford. And again, he's kind of one of his guys as well. He is, isn't he? Really. So that's the predicted 11 for me. Not my preferred 11. There'd be changes if it was up to me. That's what I think Erik ten Hag is going to go with. Joe's giving his team. Get involved in the chat in the comments and let us know your predicted 11s. Let's talk about the opposition, Fulham. Yeah. What can you tell us about them? They made some signings, haven't they?
Yeah.
The big one, obviously, is Emile Smith-Rowe coming in for about €31 million. Was a bit of a wonder kid, wasn't he, at Arsenal? Was always the one that everyone was talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of people talking and looking at him. Could he be the... I think he's the Martin Odegaard is the player that they thought Smith-Rowe was going to be.
I was going to say, Smith-Rowe seemed like he was going to be the face of the new Arsenal.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Saka's obviously swept past him in that regard, and he's barely played for a couple of years. I thought he would be there, like you said, their Odegaard or Fernandes or whatever. I don't think he'd be as good as that, but I thought he'd play that role.
Yeah.
And instead looks like he's not quite there. He's had injury issues. He's not got quite the output. I think he's a decent signing. It's almost like how they got Pereira from United.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think he's probably better than Pereira. But I do think losing Palhinha's will damage them. I think that they were trying to replace him, obviously. Got some people in and looked for Scott McTominay as one option. I think there might even still be negotiations going on there. But I think losing Palhinha midfield will hurt them, especially in transition when they try and come and press United. If Garnacho is playing like you've predicted, our ability to play through teams quickly is one of the best in Europe. I think when we're on it, we saw that against City in the FA Cup final last season, and without that kind of anchor in the middle, I think they might struggle. So I think they're a decent team, one of those who they've made themselves a sort of Premier League regular, which for a long time they weren't, and I respect that, but I do think you United should have just too much for them.
It was a low point last season when it losing to Old Trafford.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, you can take your pick. There was a lot of others to go through. You could Galatasaray or Bournemouth or
Brentford
City or whatever. But the Fulham game in particular is where it exposed a lot of flaws in what Erik ten Hag was doing last season and where United were struggling. And to lose to that Alex Iwobi goal, I think it was late on, was a real sucker punch. With all that being said, give us your score predictions.
We're going to win. We're going to win this game.
Yeah.
And I think we'll win quite comfortably, actually. I'm hopeful we'll get... This season is going to be the one where we start scoring goals. Because one thing that we can talk about the defence under Ten Hag, the 20 shots conceded every game last season, I think the third most shots conceded of any team in the Premier League. One thing that has underpinned both the successful first season and the less successful second season, a lack of goals.
Yeah.
I talked about it so much 12 months ago about how United overachieved in terms of points per goal scored compared to everyone else in the league. We're getting like 55 goals a season. Is not good enough. It's 30, 40 behind City and Arsenal. This has to be the year we start scoring. I'm going to go 3-0 Manchester United. Strong start, early goal, bit of confidence around the stadium, bit of momentum, Ineos, new things happening at Man United. Big win, 3-0 Manchester United. What are you saying?
Yeah, I'm in a similar position. I agree with you completely. I think it'll be, you know what, I'll go 4-1.
Yes!
Didn't we beat Fulham 4-1 at home the opening day years ago? I can't remember. I think we did.
5-1, wasn't it?
Was it 5-1? Sorry, it's all a blur. But yeah, I think you're right. I think we'll get amongst the goals and hopefully put in a performance. I hope I'm right anyway. Get involved in the chat in the comments and let us know what you think. We've gone big time. Sorry, I thought you were giving me a spot.
I was.
Doing, sorry. Yeah, we've both gone for a big win. I think there's goals in it. I want to see Marcus Rashford amongst the goals. He got a lot of stick after the Community Shield and rightly so after missing those chances. But he needs to get on the score sheet and he needs to hit the ground running this season. He really does. The pressure's on, so I want to see him amongst the goals. Joe, always a pleasure. Never
Thank you very much.
Go and check him out on Sloppy Joe's. You know where to find me as well. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. This has been a preview for the season opener against Fulham. Thanks for watching.